Hey, it's Gids. If you're here, it's either because you're my friend, or you, like me, really like the Surge. I'm always surprised that there are no challenge run videos about this game. I feel like this game has a lot to offer. So if you like this content and you have any other ideas for runs about this game, let me know. The rules today are simple. I'm not allowed to use any weapon besides the reinforced pipe you start with. To my knowledge, this is as disarmed as the game lets you be, since you always have to be holding a weapon. We are also not allowed to craft or equip any armor. Obviously we need rig upgrades to progress the story, but those don't give us any damage negation or armor of any kind. Now if you're unfamiliar with the mechanics of this game, you have health, stamina, and energy. Leveling up your core doesn't change any of these stats, but rather it lets you equip implants that can buff these stats. As you level higher and get more implants, you will be able to install more implants simultaneously, and quite a few of them scale with your core level, giving you more health, stamina, and energy the higher level you are. Energy is gained from landing attacks with your weapon and can be used to heal you, buff your weapon, cut off limbs, and use your drone. We won't be cutting off many limbs since we can't use the parts we would get anyway, but the drone is going to come in handy since our damage is going to be pretty pitiful. So we wake up with the only weapon we will need in our hands, without any armor as God intended, and make our way through Tutorial Valley. We grab ourselves a power core, install it, and dump all our scrap into levels since we won't be crafting much of anything this run. We install a few implants, make sure to ignore the lady trying to talk to us, and head out once more. Not much to see in this area. I mostly kill who I can and run past the rest. Fighting enemies with the pipe is time consuming, so I don't want to engage with anyone I don't have to. And I foolishly assumed I wouldn't need the credits, which will come back to haunt me later. I did realize that I have to play in the dark because you need body armor to turn your lights on. So we fight through and turn on the lights and go up to fight our first boss. This is PAX. It stands for something. Basically you just run around and hit his feet while avoiding his attacks. I have the Medivoltaic healing, which allows me to heal based on the energy I've made hitting him, so healing isn't an issue, saying I have to hit him a lot with this dull pipe. Once you get his posture bar all the way up, he panics and starts shooting rockets at you. If you stand beneath him, the rockets will hit him and knock him over, leaving him exposed to do the only real damage you can do to his health bar. After doing this a few times, he goes down on the first try without too much trouble. Hopefully all the bosses will go like this. We take the train to the next area and pick up a drone. He opens the door for us and we get to our second bonfire. My damage in this area is pretty sad, so it's a lot of running through and just trying to progress to the next boss. We die a few times in this area, mostly to random shots from enemies doing almost all of our health in one shot, but overall it isn't too bad just yet. We ignore the lady who wants scrap from us, and unlock our elevator shortcut to the second boss. I personally love this fight. This boss basically just swings its arms at you really fast and you cut them off whenever you can. The first attempt I realized that it was taking a lot of hits to even come close to cutting an arm off. This was a solid 5 minutes of fighting. So after dying I decided it was time to upgrade to make this fight a little bit more doable. I got my pipe to level 2 and went back for a second attempt. This went a lot better, and although it took a lot of hits to cut off an arm, it wasn't even as close to as long of a fight. Once you cut off enough arms, you go for the middle whenever he isn't roasting you alive, until I finally got the kill. The fight took about 5 minutes, so not too horrible. Not much to say about the next area. For some reason my recording was having a lot of issues with the particles in this area, so the footage isn't super great anyway. I went underground to Dexter's Laboratory, messed around with some settings that didn't help at all, and struggled my way through the dark areas. I still don't have any lights because they're on body armor. After powering up the elevator and coming back above ground, I released the lockdown on the area and fight it out with the enemies that kill me very quickly. We make our way down underground again, talk to a scientist who gives us a drone upgrade so we can progress the story, and leave the biolabs for good, hopefully to the aid of my frame rate. We get back and get a look at our next boss, Big Sister. The fight that made, frankly, a lot of people uninstall this game. But enough about that for now, first we need to get there. I get thoroughly torched by some flamethrower guys a few times, use my drone, and climb up the tower to the best of my ability. There are enemies that shoot gas in this area, and enemies with flamethrowers, and they will happily gas the whole area and then ignite the gas, exploding and killing everyone, including themselves. So you do need to watch out for that.
Look at you.
I ignore this lady who tries talking to me,
Speechless?
grab a new rig that gives us more implant slots, go back home to install it, and make our way to the next boss. And this boss is a really cool concept, but unfortunately I feel like the second phase is where this game lost a lot of people. The first stage is great. You fight some swinging arms that are pretty easily punishable until you cut them off, and then you get onto the platform to fight these janky little arms that basically one-shot a guy without armor. They have some strange hitboxes and can actually hit you while you're fighting with the other arms. It is possible to run past them to Big Sister, but they can also hit you while you're fighting her, so it's not super viable to just try and run past them. Big Sister herself isn't easy either, and I spent about 2 hours here just trying to get some practice on the final phase, usually getting one shot by an arm or the sister doing her claw attack. I spent time reevaluating my implants, strategizing, huffing some copium about how this fight was the problem, not me, and eventually realized it was just time for me to get good. I died 20 plus times to this boss, but eventually settled on a strategy that worked, and here's the final try. Cut off the arms as usual, try not to use any heals, just the energy-based one. Work one by one to take out the arms, staying out of range of the other arms. Make our way to the sister and stay on her side, doing damage whenever she's finished her attacks. Found some safe areas for her bigger damage attacks, and was eventually able to finish her off. We fall through the floor and make our way into the research lab. A scientist thinks we're here for the inspection and lets us through, which is strange considering how many of these people are actively trying to kill me. My lack of damage is really showing here, so I try and just run past what I can. We find the scientist again, and he decides along with everyone else that it's time for us to die. So we spend some time trying to remember where you go and which doors you unlock to get this guy. Eventually I accidentally stumbled across the thing I needed to activate, and make our way to the mini-boss. This is just a juiced up normal guy, but he does one-shot us, and I forgot that the others will stay in the arena if you don't kill them, so I got ganked. Next attempt went a lot better. This guy isn't bad, he's just faster than normal. Even with some clumsiness I managed to take off his head, and then felt bad as I fought his flailing body. We found our guy. He launched his program before we could stop him, releasing his robots upon everyone. He explains that he's disgusted by his meaty flesh and wants to become one with the robot or something like that, so we help him along with the process, and make our way out. Back at home base, I finally talked to the lady that's been trying to reach us about our car's extended warranty, because I forgot where I needed to go, and I think she tells you. She does. She tells us that we gotta go through the security wing and head up to the executive office. So we start making our way through and find ourselves at the next boss, the Black Cerberus. There's no reason this fight should have taken me this long, but it did. You have to fight the boss who gets scared and summons PAX enemies, 3 of them to be precise. Now if you're a Surge enjoyer, you might remember that there is a way to get only 1 PAX summon, but I completely forgot about this and instead struggled here for about 2 hours. Without armor, Cerberus one-shot me with most of his attacks. And with some more questionable hitboxes on the slides, I got hit quite a few times. I'm also not incredibly patient, and I kept trying to find a way to one-cycle the PAX so the fight went a little bit faster. Eventually, persistence won out, and I was able to make my way through. Plus by now I should have all the attacks memorized. Although I basically had to no-hit him to win, otherwise I got killed. With Black Cerberus out of the way, I grabbed his keycard, grabbed his fancy clothing with more implant slots, and made our way to the executive floor. If I felt like I wasn't doing much damage before, this area made me feel even weaker. Most enemies, if they caught me with a combo, would instantly kill me. It took me ages to take anyone down, even with few levels given to my dull pipe. I accidentally stumbled into the underground server area and deactivated the lockdown. I went up to talk with the board members. Unfortunately, the Grimace Shake was served as an appetizer to lunch, so there wasn't anyone left to talk to. They did make sure to vote to launch Utopia first though, so that was thoughtful of them. Next up are these two. Now they aren't necessarily a mini-boss, but you can't progress until you kill them. So I spent about 45 minutes here working my way through groups of enemies slowly, only to be killed by a random big attack and have to start all over again. However, as luck would have it, one of the two managed to be kind enough to get stuck inside the steps, so I tried to help him out in the best way I knew how. After he was freed, I made sure he wasn't alone in Robot Heaven by sending his best buddy up there with him. We then make our way to the nucleus. The final area of the game is loaded with as many annoying, twirly enemies as the game could muster, packaged in a bundle of strange layouts and hidden areas. I swear I've played this game before, but somehow I always get a little lost here. I do finally and accidentally make my way through, and use a machine to blast a hole in some nanoparticles so that I can make my way to the final boss, the rogue process. This boss was by far the hardest for me. Almost any of his attacks instantly killed me, and my pipe was doing little to nothing to it. I spent 3 hours on this boss and definitely had to leave it for one night and come back the next because I was getting a bit tilted. Most of the attacks are fairly predictable and you can hide under him for quite a few of the attacks, but he randomly does this porcupine attack which is very difficult to read in time and almost kills me, burning through all the healing I brought to the fight. Also to be noted, I don't have great implants at this point because I spent a lot of my time rushing through the areas instead of looting them, which is now coming back to bite me in my shiny rigged butt. After the first 2 hours I decided I should do a little run back through the game and grab some endgame crafting materials for my weapon, as well as enough levels to unlock a couple more implants and scale my health a little higher. This ended up being the difference for the first phase, but after you beat the large rogue process, a small humanoid one comes hurtling towards you for the second half. He's not awful to fight, but usually by this point I didn't have many heals left. He hits really hard, and also I'm not very good at this game. However, with enough practice and persistence, and enough times getting one-shot by stupid attacks in the first phase, I was able to work kind of a rhythm into the fight, and here's my final attempt. Things go normally for the first phase. I spend my time running underneath him and smacking him whenever he swings, a classic Souls reference. I try not to use too many heals here, but I end up burning through quite a few, although I am getting better at dodging his porcupine spikes. After chopping all 3 areas, I moved my way to the final phase and spent my time being as cowardly as I needed to be. Running away, getting just enough energy to use my kinetic drone, sending him flying, landing a few pot shots, and repeating the process. Trying not to burn through too many heals and not get too impatient and get myself killed. Admittedly on this final run the RNG helped a little. He didn't do his sliding attack as much, and after many painstaking minutes of running, dodging, and poking, I worked him down to the point where I could finish him with the pipe I found starting next to me at the beginning of the game, proving that you can beat the Surge with only a starting pipe and no armor. If you enjoy this and want to see more content around this game and its sequel, let me know. A like and a subscription also mean a lot to me. As for now, thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.